What's up, guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am Tahyira Savannah. This is talk number 9. We are in a different setting where I'm outside, so I have a headset to make sure that my audio is being recorded. You may hear a little inconsistency because it is wired here, but outside of that, I think we should still get there. This is a really important video for me. I've done a lot of research with it. I've been having a really rough month, just emotionally. I don't know, July is just like my thing. Everyone's like, it's the heat to here. I'm like, yeah, but for me, it's like I feel like I'm being dragged to emotional hell. And a lot of the things that I tried to like not deal with, I just have to deal with. I spoke to my therapist this month one time. It's just a lot going on. So again, the title of this video is Narcissism in Parents, Peers, and Presidents. Oh, let's get into it. So this is my opening little intro. I wrote, like I told you guys, like I write my scripts and I write down everything here, so it's just not me just like going off on tangents, which I do a lot on my Instagram. You can follow me, I let the good times roll. But I wanted to say this part. It's like since I was like a very young kid, anytime I could go back to childhood or anything, I never felt like, though I was honor student, I never felt like that. I never felt like this special. You know, I would always look at the other students who were perceived to be popular and how they would walk around with this like confidence, and I never felt like I had that, no matter what I achieved in my life. You know, I was cheerleading captain. I still felt like, why do I still feel like I'm not the cheerleading captain? You know what I mean? And a lot of that, now that I look back on, stems from my mom and dad, you know what I mean? And mostly my mother. You know, when you're a female child, this kind of plays into what I was talking about, masculinity and masculine energy and feminine energy, how we're like in this kind of like, feminine energy is going like this, masculine energy is kind of going like that. So a lot of us as women too, who perceive ourselves to be very strong-minded, and you're like a business owner, or you know, you're like a boy, basically. I've said that before. We're forced now into our female role, and it's kind of like that directly sends us back to motherhood, the mothers that we have. No matter if you're, like I said, I know there's a lot of people that watch my channel, we come from different walks. You may be adopted where you don't know your physical mother, but what we're talking about here is environment, right? The mother that played in the environment where you were the child. So if it's a grandparent, if it's a foster parent, whatever it is, you know, I physically had my mother in my life. The situation in my family is just very different. Like I say, West Indian families, which I know a lot of other families too in America, it's kind of like a lot of people in my peer group, we were raised by our grandparents, you know, not to say our parents were not there, it's just that we spent the majority of our time and growing up around grandparents. I'm not separate from that, you know. Me too. What I realized in my specific situation, why as I grew from 7 years old to 12 to 14, 15, 16 to 19, 18, 19, 20, as I got older, whatever, what I realized is that my mother has a mental disorder that has gone unchecked for years. I talked to a lot of my family. Another disclaimer for this video, I'm not a therapist. I'm getting my information from a lot of other YouTubers, which I will put here, and they are therapists, you know what I mean? They are doctors. They study narcissism 100%. A lot of it I pull from Mary Trump book, who is also a psychologist who wrote the book about Donald Trump and the narcissist that he is. So that's what the presidents and the peers and the parents, not just my parents, other people. You know, there's points in my life where I'm like, I felt like I suffered with narcissism, which is something that you learn. When you're raised by one, you have a lot of that tendency because they train you to be a certain way, and then you are left on your own device through therapy, through other means to find out like, hey, wait a minute, like this is not good. You know, this is not good. So I realized that my mother was a narcissist, and to double down on my issue, my father, who my parents were broken up for the better half of my life, my father was an enabler, and when he could no longer enable her behaviors, he just left. You know, he left me as a kid to deal with it, you know? So this is for you if you're like me. We're not alone, and as you know, we still live out here. Either way. Disclaimer. Another disclaimer I wanted to put right here is that this video, like, it's not from a, like I say, clinical point of view, even though I will be using those terms and saying things as if I'm like talking as if I like these people are my clients. They're not in that type of way. I'm talking from a survivor's point of view, from a person who lived the better part of her life this way, got to a point where it's like, hey, something's wrong, I don't care, I'm gonna do my own research and find out what's wrong here. Me understanding that my mother's a narcissist and how I can deal with her, and how when I put her in the box of the narcissist, how everything makes more sense than me trying to understand, like, well, I don't know why she don't love me, I don't know why she's envious of me, I don't know why she's kind of like a little jealous of me, I don't know why she always has a problem with me. It's easier to just be like, oh, she's a narcissist, it's a mental disorder. I get it. It's easier to deal with that way. I'm coming from that point of view because this is my YouTube channel and this is my life. The reason I wanted to make the video is because I know a lot of people struggle. I've heard it already in my peer group, in my immediate friend group, people talking about their mom, but they don't talk about it in a, you know, it's very underneath your breath. It's like, you know, because that's another part of it. We're trained to be like, oh, you know, your parents are the people who gave you life, and how dare you say something bad about them, and oh my God, like you're so ungrateful. Nobody wants to be called ungrateful. I've been called ungrateful my whole life by my mother. You know, nobody wants to feel like you're confident or you shouldn't be as grand, as big and loud and powerful as you are, because the people around you want you to be quiet because they're scared to other people to know what they're wrong with them. You know, we shouldn't have to live like that. If our parents are fucked up, then they're fucked up. Another disclaimer, I hope that my mother watches this video. Like, I feel like she's one of these people that social media low-key stalks me because she doesn't really understand the type of person I am, the type of woman, even though she wants to be the mother that says that she does. When other people come around and be like, oh my God, Tahyira is such a beautiful person. Like, for example, I'll give this real example. This woman sent an email from the Red Eye Media Group talking to me as I'm the CEO of that company, right? She's older than me. So it's like, oh, honey, you know, I can't keep up with you kids on social media or whatever. So I started like, we kind of had like a little chit chat, whatever, but she's older than me. So I'm still like, it's still funny. I'm like, this lady's like my mom. And then when she sent back one of the emails, she was like, oh my God, Tahyira, your mom should be so proud of you. You're like, wow, I can't believe it. Like, you know, I kind of wish my kids had a lot of more of that. You're really young and you're running this company and you're, you know. So I forwarded it to my mom, you know, she didn't even roll back. Like, she didn't even say anything. Like, I brought it up to her and I'm like, did you see what that lady said? And she was just like, oh no, I think she did write back. She was like, oh my God, that's so funny. I'm like, you didn't think it was funny. But, you know, because she never really understands when people say like, oh my God, Tahyira is like so amazing. Because in her mind, it's like, she scans for ways that I'm not, you know, and I don't think that she's even able to admit it to herself because, you know, her point of view on it. It's passing. Hold on, guys. There's like a helicopter passing. I don't know. What? Yeah. So, yeah, I was saying, like, I don't even think that you notice it. That's the thing. Like, Donald Trump doesn't know that he's a narcissist. Even the fact that his niece is calling him a narcissist. People around him are probably still like Ivanka and Donald Jr. and all the rest of them. I'm sure they know there's something wrong, you know? And she breaks it down from their, like, like it's a generational issue with them. It's like it happened with the Fred Trump Jr., which is Mary Trump's father, to Donald Trump, who was like the baby Trump, you know? So he got it the worst, and he's the worst because it's like, I wasn't raised to show emotion. I don't know. What is the helicopter doing? Yeah. And same like my mother to Donald Trump. From one, they're the same sign, both Geminis. Number two, they're both the babies in their family in this kind of way, you know? So on top of your older brothers and sisters kind of like enabling you and not telling you and not really, you know what I mean? Not really caring enough about you to stop you from self-destructing yourself. That's very much how it is, because I was raised by my aunt and my uncle, my mom's older brothers and sisters, and their whole point of view is just like, Tahyira, we told you, just ignore her, that's how she is, she's been this way her whole life. I'm like, that's not a help. That doesn't help me. I'm her child. She brought me into this world. I can't deal with the way you guys deal with her. And just right there alone, I catch them in enabling. I'm like, that's enabling. You're making it seem, you're trying to pacify shit that's fucked up as normal, like what Donald Trump tries to do here. Eventually it catches up to everybody, you know. It's like you have to, I don't know if you're shooting videos now, there's a chopper circling over my head. Like, I'm telling you, the devil is a liar this month, all month to me. I'm just like, you want to fight me? Because you're not gonna win. Anyway, moving forward. So I'm going to talk about like when I first discovered, or when I told my family members, the people who enabled the narcissist in my life, when I told them that something was wrong, when something was obviously wrong. When I was young, I would come home from open school night crying. I wasn't a kid that was failing or anything. It's just that she never made me feel anything was good enough. It's like if you had a 90, it's like, well, what happened to the other 10 points? You know, and I'm like, I say, a big part of it is how they were raised too. Like, I'm not blaming my mother. I feel really sad. Like I said, I really hope she watches this video so that she sees it from, and she probably won't, because again, narcissists, they can't see their kid or anything like that telling them anything. But I would hope that she could take herself out of it and listen to me as like another person and a woman, or a person that just knows her and seen her struggling all these years. You know, it's like, you have to have control, you have to have authority. It's like, why though? Like, you know what I mean? You don't even see yourself kind of self-destructing that way to the people that you claim that you love. You pushed my father away and you pushed me away. I never lived with her, you know what I mean, you guys? So it's like, I don't know what other sign a human being would need to see you're losing everything in your life for you to think that, hey, there's something wrong with me. I mean, a few weeks ago, which kind of like pushed me to make this video, she didn't get into me, she got into it with my husband. And the people that were in the house around it said that, she said, I don't know, maybe I have a mental disorder too. So I'm like, maybe she's getting closer to her diagnosis, but I don't know. There's I was young, she was younger. We never had a good relationship. We never had this, oh, mom and daughter, blah, 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 blah. We always just had that cat and dogs kind of thing. And it's because she left me with my grandmother, and they have a big dispute in my family as to if my grandmother took me from her, or they left me and then whatever. But my life, I can tell you guys from my perception of it, I grew up thinking or knowing that my existence causes friction between my mother and her mother, like my grandmother and her daughter, which is me. I was in the middle. you know. And as much as they used to be like, oh no, you're not in the middle, you know, you're not in the middle, because they're West Indian, I was very, very, very much in the middle. And when I had my mental breakdown, everyone blamed my mother. And I'm like, well, everybody is responsible because everybody saw this. The helicopter's gone for now, so let's see if we can do this. All right, so I wanted to start off on when I first would say I was showing signs that something was wrong with me, to the people who I call the enablers. My father's the main person. Would leave open school night, or for example, and I'd come home crying, and they'd be like, well, what happened? And I couldn't even verbulate like what happened, because it wasn't something that happened. It was an emotion that she made me feel. It was an emotion that she made me feel that used to try to like cut me down. So that's a big thing. When you guys Google narcissism, narcissists are people that are incapable of showing empathy. They're incapable of showing like compassion and care if it's not a self-serving thing, you know. So I can talk from my mom. She thinks in her mind that she's this big compassionate person. She always goes around like, I'm not like that, and I would never do that. And she talks about how much money she spends on other people, like for example my grandmother's birthday party, you know. It's like Donald Trump, another person. I have all these things. I'm trying to help the blacks. The black people have been helped more than my administration. Like talking in that kind of tone, it's narcissism. It always comes back to them. No matter if you, and their job is to mask it so that you never know that it comes back to them. It's manipulation and lack of empathy at the same time. It's a double whammy, you know? So you guys have to be very clear. And like I say, it comes in peer groups. I've had friends who I'm like, there's something off with you. And it's like, I'm tired of, you enable a lot of your friends that way too, because it's like you're calling them your friend, obviously, like Jeffrey Epstein, right? Donald Trump, what's his friend? Then he got in trouble for raping girls, and Donald Trump tried to say like, that was never my friend. That's what narcissists do. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, he was my friend. What do you mean? Of course he was my friend. Of course he's my friend, running in the same circles. He goes down for something. I never said that was my friend. You know what I mean? It's like, just, that's like a very obvious, it's like, oh, now they're not your friend because you understand. When I was smaller, like, I'm like, you know, I'm like, my mom would put other people's kids in front of, like, oh, you know, this one's daughter is doing this. And I'm like, they're dumber than me. Your daughter's on the honor roll. That kid doesn't have anything. And you're talking up about it as if, and you came for me at open school night. It's like I never understood, and I couldn't verbulate it back then either. I'm like, I couldn't never say those words to her. I don't think I ever really told her how I felt until I moved to Los Angeles, and then I came back, and I remember this moment specifically. I had came back for, it was like Easter, and it was my best friend, Christina. She turned 30 that year. We all turned 30. It was the year 2017. I had moved like the month before. I had the money to travel back and forth. And at that point, me and my mom relationship was really, it had gotten very, very close. So I'm breaking up the timeline, but I'll tell you guys this. That was the first time I felt comfortable and close enough to her to say, like, throughout my whole life, why do you think I always just be like, oh, you know, you don't get along, or why I have this thing against you? It's like, because you never made me feel like you love me or you care about me. And she turned around and said, like, again, in the same tone, like, oh, why would you think that? You're my daughter, like, you're Natalie's daughter. Man, she called herself, you're Natalie's daughter. Why would I ever think that? You think I would ever push somebody else's kid in front of my kid? Like, are you crazy, whatever? This is 2017. This was before my mental health breakdown the first time. I never got into therapy. I never even understood I never knew the word narcissist was a word, you know? So I took that at that point, like, oh, wow, maybe it was something that you missed to hear all those years. Like, she did love you, and people have been telling you this. All the enablers, my dad, my aunts, and them. Of course your mother loves you. Of course she loves you. Who wouldn't love you? That's enabling, and it's very dangerous because it creates something inside of you that you will spend your rest of your adult life trying to figure out. You know, it's so dangerous. It's just like, this video is not even doing close enough to verbulate how dangerous it is. That's why I'm gonna link in the doctors. Dr. Ramani is someone who I follow a lot. She's big on narcissists. She's an Indian doctor. I love her. There's another lady called, I wrote it down here, the Narcissist Whisperer or something like that. I'm gonna get all of them in here, but like they talk about it in such a real way that made me know, like, Tahyira, it's not something that you thought about. This is legitimate Narcissist 101 or maybe 501, because I dealt with it my whole life. I'm 33 years old, my entire life, and this is the first time I feel even good enough to talk about it. Can you imagine? 33. Throughout that time in high school, our relationship increasingly decreased. So it kept going, our relationship, like from 9th grade to 10th grade. I, like in junior high school, for example, I flunked she wanted me to go to the specialized high school, Stuyvesant, Brooklyn Tech, all this bullshit. I flunked it on purpose. I didn't even try. I was like filling in the answer sheets with like my left hand. I remember, like, just completely fucked off. That was the first and only time though in my life that I hurt myself trying to get back at her. And because I knew she would be embarrassed when she go to the school and they showed her my scores, like, you didn't even score in any school. I don't care, I'm not trying to go, like, you know. And she did the same. It's like so said, so done. The scores came in, she came to Huddy, they're like, what's going on here, da, 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 da. How come you didn't tell me about your scores and everybody else got scores? I'm like, well, I didn't make the schools. They're like, oh, why, how come you didn't make it, da, 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 da. I'm like, I didn't make it because I didn't want. Also, you didn't want to go to the schools. I'm like, no, I said that from before. I wanted to go to LaGuardia, like, I want to be a dancer, like, I'm trying to be a star. You know, she didn't check into any of the performing arts schools. You know, she only went to be smart educational schools. And I'm like, I'm done being smart. I'm already in SIG. I've been an honor student. I've been on honor roll and president's club and teachers club and dean's list. I'm over it. Like, why can't you just give me a chance to do dance in a real way or drama? I'm a dorm just so I can not have to stay in Brooklyn and deal with them. I wanted to go to Los Angeles. I wanted to be in the. I saw love in basketball, and I'm like, I want to go to that college. And it was the Trojans. It was what do you call it? USC. Mind you, I end up going to California and working, like, hanging out at USC all the time. So you see how, like, life comes full circle. But I wanted to go, you know, and of course my father is like, oh, yeah, it's California, that's out of the question. And I'm like, well, why? Oh, well, why you want to go so far? And why? It's like everything had to do with them, you know. Mind you, the relationship wasn't even good. So now I'm looking back too, and it's like, you used me as a pawn in your relationship. So, because if I would have went there, then you guys could have used that as an issue for you guys to be back and forth with each other. They got back together when they flew out to Los Angeles for my mental breakdown. Like, they were broken up. He had a girlfriend, they were pending divorce. She was about to get married to some dude in Trinidad. You understand? So it's like, if I was to make all this up, how do you explain everything else? You know? Yeah. So by the time we get to college now, I'm just like, CW posts, I don't care. And I'm also turning into this person that is losing her understanding of love, like family love, familial love. Like, I don't care. I don't need families. I got my friends. I don't really care. I was in a relationship with somebody who, again, we both were kind of like maybe attracted to the fact that our backgrounds were really, really fucked up, and we wanted to be this like safe haven. But because we didn't have the tools, it's like we're more unhappy in this relationship than anything else. You know, he had to go and find his way. I'm like, you want a wife, you want a kid, you want a baby. I'm not that girl. Like I told you before, I can't do it. You know, my family, no one works out. It's like divorce kingdom over here. I can't do it. I have to focus on academics. I have to focus on being a lawyer. I have to focus on getting a good job and being a self-sufficient black woman. You know, that was what I was going. This is all in my mind, right? And it's all based off, like I say, being raised by narcissist enablers and all this stuff. So you don't even know sometimes. It's like, oh, I'm making these choices. I feel like this because you think it's your individual feeling. And it's not. It's for some shit that happened to you, the adults. So I want to make a point here and say, like I just said, that, you know, you be making decisions in your life based off the people who are supposed to be guiding you in this way doesn't mean that you get to F off. Like I said, me flunking and not going into bed, what is it? Brooklyn Tech or whatever, that was on me. Like, that made me look stupid in my school because it's like, you're all the other kids, you're like the only one. Like, it kind of singled me out, like, you did something dumb here, you know? It wasn't even like I got away with it. So I learned from that. It's like, no matter what is going on, you do what you gotta do for Tahyira. I wanted to see what you post. I mean, it was in Los Angeles, but guess what? I was X Factor. I was doing mad performance shit. You get involved in whatever way you can get involved. I was in SGA in high school. I was cheerleading captain. I was we be in plays. We did dance. They let me stay in dance school all the way up until high school, which was like the ending of high school, when my dance school ended up closing. You know, I was in special performances. I performed on stage, and so I still got as much as I could, but it definitely wasn't what I wanted. And I always fantasized about this world. There's another part. I remember my dad had this surgery. It was like in between college, the college years. I did summer internship at the Department of Billiards, where I met some of my very close friends. 3 years in a row. So basically every year between college up until like I was graduating, I was working full time. So I remember one time my dad was getting a surgery on his knee or whatever, and it was one of these times, again, summertime, I guess for them too, was just never like a good thing. I don't know. I just always remember summer just being like hella full of drama, and come like September, they'd have to like figure it out just to deal with me in school and tuition and moving me in and getting my books and whatever. So yeah. But this one year, I think my father was having some surgery on his knee or something like that. And I don't know whatever happened between them before. My mother was just really on it this time. Like, I guess she was getting, and understandably so, as a woman, as a female child to her, I always saw it from like a woman's point of view, like a feminist, like, no, I don't care, like, you left my mother, she's out here by herself. Even though I know now, like, a lot of that was manipulation and playing into her narcissism, and she told me certain things for me to look at my dad bad because it made her feel like she was right in her breakup and the divorce and whatever it was. You know, I call it divorce, it was never really a divorce, but there's no one else to really explain it. Right in the breakup, you know. Now that I know that, still I look back, I'm like, I don't think I would have changed. Me knowing her to be a narcissist now, I probably wouldn't have changed what I used to say, because, you know, people need support regardless of the fact. There's many times where I hear Donald Trump or I listen to someone say something about him, and I'm like, he's having a rough day today. Like, he's really struggling. I feel bad. I feel bad from a human point of view, not from like, he's a dictator and I don't want him as my president. But I be feeling bad. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, damn, shit. That's fucked up, you know? So same like my mom, I used to be like, damn, like, that's fucked up, like, you know? So she was in one of those modes, and I was like trying to tell her, I'm like, well, you know, my dad's like really sick or whatever. She's like, how do you know? I don't want to hear nothing about your father. It was the first time she like kind of like, I guess you would say aggressively trying to show me that she didn't care. And I'm like, all right, you're going, like, to me, to her, I was like, yo, you're okay, I got it. Yeah, but I don't know, you keep wanting me to care and I don't care. And I'm like, I don't want you to care. You care though, because you're saying all that, and which is like really, really bad. And on the other side, my dad, who's the enabler, but obviously is in his own life now with his new girlfriend, is like, you know, and I'm like, I'm trying to tell him, like, you know, your freaking ex-wife or my mother, she's like, doesn't care if you die on this table, basically, the operating table. Like, it's gonna get, no, and it was a minor surgery. I don't think it was anything major, but he just freaked out. He's calling me every day, multiple times a day. I want to just talk to you. And I'm like, we're not even close like this. What's happening? You know, but he was scared, obviously. And I remember that he said he put my name down as like the emergency contact or whatever. But I knew his girlfriend was gonna be there too, right? And it was in the hospital that she worked and all this blah, 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 blah. So mind you, I'm like a what, 20-year-old dealing with all this shit. And I'm like, why? Why, God, why? Why did you put me in this family? Why can't my people be normal? I don't want to deal with this, you know? Oh my God, after the way she carried on with my dad's surgery and everything, I took it upon myself to like, you know what, I'm not going to let her, again, it was like one of those learning moments. It's like flunking the school test. One of those learning moments, like, I'm not going to let her change the way that I feel about my father regardless of what she wants to say and whatever, you know? And that's what it is. So at that point, me and my father relationship kind of getting close. I would like go over there with him, spend time. We would go out to eat, just me and him, where before it was like we would only eat the three of us. Like, it had to be on them being good terms for us to go out and eat. And after that, I'm like, no. And I would tell her, like, oh, I want to see my dad. Oh yeah, I didn't get an invite. I'm like, well, you don't want to be around. You don't care if he dies, so why would we invite you? And that took a while to get balanced out. But then eventually I had my mother and then I had my dad. And I was good in that space for a long time, for a really long time. Then I got upset. You know, he tried to bamboozle me. It got a little bit too close. When we see each other out in like parties, for example, they still run around in the same circles. And like, you think it's okay for your girlfriend to say something to me in my mother's presence. I'm like, no, you're crossing the line now. Goes back to my feminist little girl self. 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. That's how I live my life. It's like, oh, my mom, as I was getting older and as we would recover from these, what I now know are her narcissistic rages, as I got older, it was harder for her to just come back around because I was getting smarter and more of the Tahyira that you guys see today, the outspoken one, the one who's a business owner now, who manages Frankie, and she's making her own thing. She started her company's Tahyira Savannah Inc. She's out here, she doesn't care. Like, my confidence level is up there now. So it's like, it's not the same little girl that you could just be like, no, you're not going to dance class, and then you just put me in a corner and I start crying. No, I'm not anymore. Now it's like, I don't care, I don't need you. I've been working on my own since I was 16 years old. That's another thing. Independent. When you're raised by people who you don't really trust to be in your corner, you train yourself to be super, super duper independent. I don't need your money. I don't need your car. I don't need anything from you, honestly. I will find my way. You understand? That's why people had to fight for me for them to get the car. I couldn't even fight them anymore. I'm like, I don't care. I don't want nothing from them. They don't care about me. I was already, man, by the time we got to college, I was very much that girl. You know, she would tell people like, Tahyira knows that, you know, she don't even care about me like that no more. Like, you know, she thinks I'm a bad mother. And that's exactly how our relationship kind of was at that point too. You know? So as we're getting closer, as I turned 25, we got into another argument. I can't even remember what it was, but basically whatever happened in the argument here up in Brooklyn, she told other family members. So that's another thing with narcissists. They want to control, when they can't control you, they want to control the narrative about you. They want other people to know what you think about this person, and that's the only way that people should think. So they'll run in front, they'll make up stories, they'll manipulate other people into seeing you into being a bad person. She used to do that with my uncle in the car all the time. Like, oh, I don't know, you don't let Tahyira your car. Why? Because you know she's gonna dirty it up, and she dirties her car all the time, right? That's right. That's the reason, right? Right? It's not just me. She used to do that to my uncle. My uncle would just ignore her. And I'm like, again, enabling her, because what the right things to do is like, why are you doing this? Why are you trying to embarrass her? Why are you trying to create a situation here? That's what an adult, a regular-minded adult would say, because it's fucked up. You're saying it to a person that's your kid, you know? But they don't. He's like, oh, you know how your mother is, and they pass it off. You know what I mean? So she's done that. When I turned 25, she called all the way down to my uncle down in Florida, who me and him are not even close like that, to tell him how that's what it was. She said I cursed her out on a voicemail and whatever. So he calls my grandmother now, that's their mom, and it's like, oh, what is this that Natalie's telling me Tahyira's cursing her out? Like, come on, like, it's getting to be too far now. Tahyira has to learn respect. Her whole MO in her life on me is that Tahyira is ungrateful, disrespectful, never showed her any love as a mother, and some other shit. You know what I mean? That's a narcissist thing. That's a narcissist thing. Why did Donald Trump throw his friends under the bus before the bus shows up? Because he knows the media is going to ask him questions. Were you or were you not friends with that girl? I don't know. I don't want to be friends with her. I don't know what to even talk about Jeffrey Epstein. I don't even know him. 2025, I just started getting kind of close to a relationship with my husband, but it was still rocky. You know what I'm saying? I keep going through all these emotional things, and he couldn't be there to support me. Number one, I tried to mask as much as I could from like that girl, that brokenness with the narcissist mother and the enabling father, from him as much as possible. So it wasn't really his fault, but then again, I hadn't gotten into therapy, so I didn't really know how to deal with this. This is me all looking and talking in retrospect now, right? So we broke up. I broke up with him. Like, my parents got into, well, they didn't get into a fight. My father's girlfriend ended up attacking my mom, and it was a whole real thing in the party and whatever. And like a week after that, I told Frankie, I'm like, I don't think I could do this. Like, I'm dealing with my career, which was kind of going up, you know. I was working at the company that got me to LA. I just couldn't, you know, it was just too much. I'm like, one minute my parents are good, next minute they're fighting, next minute they're this, and now they're getting a divorce, now there's a restraining order. I'm like, love doesn't exist, people. This can't be it, because in my parents' life, and I love this line that I've been saying and I'm gonna say, they may be the villains in my mental health story, but they are definitely the heroes in my love story, which is the better part of my story anyway. Like, I don't, you know, like, mental health is very important. This is why we have to address it, but it's not the only thing. Love is what sets us free, you know. Regardless of my parents being there for me or not, whatever, they showed me real love. And one thing I always loved my mother about, a narcissist or not, she never lied to me. She never pretend or made my life seem like what it was. She was 100% real, 100% real. So I had to be 100% real. And I told the man in my life at that time, and I'm just like, I can't do this. I know what you want. We're supposed to be on this plan together. I'm down to stay in the business aspect of it. Tahyira Savannah Inc. will still be your manager. You could be a client, but I can't do this in a love way, like in this relationship building way anymore. I can't. I don't believe in it. I don't think these things work. I think it's just we're trying to do something that's not real, and I'm stressing myself out about it. You know, so I call that the fight breakup 2016. It was 2016. Remember, I moved to LA 1 year later. That's how God works in mysterious ass ways. He don't mess around with us at all. I maybe realized that she was a narcissist, I want to say somewhere last year, in between coming back from Los Angeles here, just the way that she was dealing with me. I spoke about this in my podcast already. And when I realized that my dad was an enabler, when it's like, you can't even stop to hear someone else's point of view of her at all. Definitely not mine, definitely not no one from her family, and there's no one else that knows her, because everybody else, just like Donald Trump, is manipulated into being in his life. They're not there by choice, they're there because he did something to swindle them into being here. That's why I see he could easily throw them under the bus later. Like, I don't even know how they got close to me. It's dangerous. It's super dangerous. And I've seen her do it to my husband. You know, she tried to manipulate Frankie, because again, when they can't reach their target, which is me, I'm the target in her life, she always has an issue with me. And the other day she came to my house. She loves to call me a pothead. She knows that I smoke weed. She knows that other people know that I smoke weed. She smokes weed. People know that. People told me that. Her first boyfriend was a drug dealer from LA, from Trinidad. You understand? People know. It's like, I came downstairs the other day. She's like, oh, look at Tahyira, she's so high. My grandmother was sitting at the table, and my dad was too. I just looked at her and I went to the kitchen and started laughing. My father just looked at her. My grandmother didn't say a word. There are two people in my life who I think are the biggest enablers. She done abuse my grandmother so much, though, that I understand. My father, though, I'm like, you're in her life, bro. You're in her life for what, though? For her to go around and calling your child a pothead in front of people? Is that what you want? When I'm over here working on a Pulitzer Prize, like, I have a master's degree that neither one of you have ever read. You can't even write or what? But this is what she goes around telling people, that I'm a pothead. It's like, okay, I will be a pothead. I smoke weed every day. I don't care. Like, you know what I mean? That's how I play her now, because it's like there's nothing that she can really say to hurt me. Who she's hurting now is the people that I care about. Frankie. You know, you try to manipulate him into seeing me a certain way and feeding into, because we're in a relationship, so he's always going to have something to say about the person he was saying. Like, I have something to say about him. I'm not going to call and tell his mom and his sister, though. I have my friends for that. You understand? That's what she tries to do. Well, that's what she did. And then Frankie realized it, and like I say, he's in love with me so much that I knew that it was going to flip left if he ever really found out what it was with them. And that's where he's at now. Now he just doesn't want me to even deal with them at all. At all. He's like, you don't need your parents. You never did. I keep telling you that, you know, and it's like, now we're in the situation that I tried my best to avoid it, and we're still here anyway, you know? So I'm like, it's whatever, bro. Like, I'm telling Frankie how to deal with it in the scheme of the world. Like, if you learn how to deal with your in-laws, you'll learn how to deal with a lot more people, because there are narcissists in the world, and a lot of them are in powerful positions because they get up there, because they manipulated so many people around them. No one's gonna get them off. Who's gonna knock them off? You know, if you you see it in your relationship, it happens. You see it in like in a work relationship where it's like there's a manager, or you're like even a coworker. Sometimes a coworker who perceives themselves as being more entitled to the job as you, when everyone came into the job on the same accord. Everyone interviewed, everyone had to take a same assessment test, but that one employee thinks that they're entitled to a little bit more because of who they are and who you're not. Narcissism. It's narcissism. When you put it in the box of a mental health disorders, and like you put bipolar disorder for Kanye West, and you see manic episodes when I go through a psychotic break and I feel crazy and I know I have to just tap out of being so creative and wild thought, like, put it in a mental disorder, then we have tools and we get to cope and we get to deal. And after we deal comes the healing, which is the most beautiful part. Which is why I'm saying I hope my mother watches this, because I'm at the point in my life where I'm ready to heal with her. But if she can't even see herself as a narcissist, or see my father as a person that's been enabling her, and why she always wants to have control over the situation no matter what the situation is, and if she can't have control, she goes into a rage, she's not ready for healing, you know? But I think I summed up everything I wanted to say here with you guys. We talked about the peers aspect. I talked about my parents, your parents. We talked about Donald Trump, unfortunately. I'm going to finish the Mary Trump book. Probably write a review about it on my website. Yeah. Happy, what's today is? Happy July or August. This is going to be up in August. So happy August. I'm having this event, Brooklyn Artists in the Park. So I'm a little up here, a little promoting it. But yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. It's hot, it's sweaty. All this makeup melted off of me, but we got through this vlog. What's up, everybody? It's Tahyira, Savannah. Thank you so much for tuning into my vlog. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm T**. It's TASTERISK. You can follow me on Instagram. I'm I Let the Good Times Roll. I Let the Good Times Roll. And on Facebook, Tahyira Savannah, writer, dreamer, weirdo. See you guys next time.